What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Lucas the Menace, and I am here with a special guest today, GSM. Graham, you can find him on BleacherReport.com. You can find him at Twitter, at save_us_GSM. And Graham, it's good to have you, man. What's up?
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a great show today, talking about Extreme Rules and much more.
That's right. We're here. We're going to talk about WWE Extreme Rules, break down the entire match card piece by piece. We're going to give you guys our scenarios and what matches we would like to see booked. But before we get into that, we're first going to get into the main event match for Extreme Rules, Brock Lesnar versus Triple H inside a steel cage. This was announced on Raw. Paul Heyman issued the challenge to Triple H. And Graham, do you think this is the right stipulation needed for Brock Lesnar and Triple H to conclude their storyline, conclude their feud? Do you think this was the right build-up for this feud to send it on a good note?
Probably not. I believe that their no-holds-barred match at WrestleMania was the perfect conclusion. It allowed them to use the extreme environment, use it to its full extent and whatnot. I thought that was a great match despite the lack of crowd reaction, but that aside, I thought that was a great match. I thought it would have been the perfect conclusion. No, don't really see any need for a third match aside from Lesnar picking up the victory, but I don't see the match being as great because I think the steel cage will hinder the match rather than help it.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. This came out of the blue, to be quite honest with you, because I didn't know that Brock Lesnar was going to stick around after WrestleMania again. I thought, he was going to go on his vacation. Same with Triple H, but this came out of left field. So the only thing I can thank WWE for this is making it unpredictable and having it happen at the last second, because no one saw this coming at all for Extreme Rules. 3MB was challenging the Shield to a match. And then out of nowhere, Brock Lesnar's music hits. That was a good holy shit moment on Raw. But it's just this stipulation. I don't know if it's going to be as good, but I think the only reason they set up this match was to have Brock Lesnar go over and get his second victory over Triple H. That way, Brock Lesnar can continue looking like a monster. Triple H can go off in the sunlight, do whatever the hell he wants. I think that's really the main reason why they set this match up right here. Do you agree with me? Do you think Brock Lesnar will be going over at Extreme Rules over Triple H?
I would hope so. If he didn't, it would seem like a complete waste of time. But even on that same note, what else do you do in this feud? Because I thought the build-up to the feud going into WrestleMania and even going into SummerSlam last year was very well done. I thought that was great. Probably one of the better feuds going into WrestleMania. How do you top that? That's what I question. And Extreme Rules is in a little more than a month. And I appreciate WWE building it ahead of time because as we've seen in recent months, WWE waits until the last minute to start building feuds at the very last second going into a pay-per-view. Right. At least they're starting this ahead of time. But with that being said, what more can you do with this feud that we haven't already seen up to this point?
That's exactly what I was about to get into, because Paul Heyman, it seems like he's done everything to try and antagonize Triple H. So what else can you possibly do to build this feud? And like you mentioned, they still have 1 month left to build this feud. So it's like, what else can they do now? They're going to have to keep the fans invested going into Extreme Rules. It just can't be, Brock Lesnar challenging Triple H and then he disappears for a few weeks. No, now they have to continue building this. Have Brock Lesnar there be at least, once a week on Raw, every week heading into Extreme Rules. It can't be a thing where he misses 1 week, shows up the next week. No, I think that would kill the hype. So they have to do this right now, and they can't afford to mess up. But we'll just have to see what Triple H says. Do you expect to see blood inside the steel cage match?
I would hope so. Then again, we didn't see it at WrestleMania, so I'm not getting my hopes up, but yeah. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But, even still, by this point, it's April 17th. Brock Lesnar's been around in WWE for over a year now. He's only had 2 feuds with John Cena and Triple H, respectively. 2 guys that are already extremely over, 2 top guys in the company. I just don't see why they aren't using Brock Lesnar's dates wisely. He has contracted, he has limited dates that he has going into WrestleMania 31 or going to next year. He only has 25 dates, maybe even less than he did the last time. So with that being said, why are they wasting his limited dates on people that he's already feuded with and on people that don't need the feud rather than people such as Ryback or Antonio Cesaro? It's stretching things a bit. Or CM Punk. There's a number of names that Brock Lesnar can work with rather than going into this third rematch with Triple H at Extreme Rules.
Yeah, it's a shame because they're really wasting this guy's stock. When he came back last year after WrestleMania 28, Brock Lesnar seemed legit. Like, holy shit, that's how it felt. But now when you look at it, it's like Brock Lesnar doesn't seem to have that same anticipation that we first had for him. He doesn't have an intense factor that he used to have when he first came back last year. Don't get me wrong, Paul Heyman still makes him look good, but I don't know. It's just something about him is lacking right now, and hopefully they can find a way to rebuild it. But enough about this match. We're going to get into our own match card now. And we're going to start off with the mid-card match for Extreme Rules. Here's what I would like to see happen at Extreme Rules. Antonio Cesaro gets his rematch against Kofi Kingston, the United States champion, and they face off in a 2 out of 3 falls match. What do you think? Do you think that would be a good match for Extreme Rules?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, quite honestly, I don't see that happening come Extreme Rules. I see that happening maybe next week on Raw, just blowing off the rematch rather quickly. That's just the way the WWE does things. But in a dream card here, yeah, I would love to see that happen. Kofi Kingston and Antonio Cesaro had a great match this past week on Raw. You throw in a 2 out of 3 count fall stipulation, could be match of the night.
Right. And again, they don't necessarily have to have it at Extreme Rules. It could even happen in the pre-show. So I'm hoping we do get to see a match between Cesaro and Kofi at Extreme Rules. I think they would put on a pretty good match. But what kind of match would you have for Extreme Rules? Featuring the U.S. champion or the Intercontinental champion? What match would you come up with?
One match that I would love to see, that I've been wanting to see over the United States Championship for quite some time now, or even the Intercontinental Championship, which has more history with this match stipulation, a ladder match. I mean, I was quite surprised we didn't see a ladder match for either the mid-card belts at TLC last year. We haven't seen one over the mid-card belts at TLC ever, so that's quite surprising. But even still, come Extreme Rules, I would love to see Antonio Cesaro versus Kofi Kingston in a ladder match, or the IC title on the line, maybe Miz versus Barrett in a ladder match. That'd be great. But I don't expect that, because that kind of match is used for feuds that have history, that have a lot of history behind them. Antonio Cesaro versus Kofi Kingston is a feud that no one cares about at the moment, and it's not their fault. It's the creators' fault for putting the rematch on Raw 3 days after it happened on SmackDown. But they have a month to build it, so maybe it can be built up to that point. But that's one match stipulation I would love to see over either of the mid-card belts come Extreme Rules.
That's pretty good. And I actually had the Shield versus Team Hell No in a TLC match for Extreme Rules. And I was just about to get into that. They have no ladder match yet for Extreme Rules. So I was thinking this was going to be their ladder match, so to speak, for Extreme Rules. The Shield versus Team Hell No. I wouldn't make it a 3-on-2 handicap match. I think I would have Rollins and Ambrose be featured in the match, and maybe exclude Roman Reigns or have him get involved some point in the match to help the Shield win. But if they want, they could go with the direction of adding in Undertaker to make it 3-on-3, and you could still have the tag titles on the line. Taker would just have to help Team Hell No defend the titles. I think that would be a pretty creative scenario right there. But yeah, they definitely need a TLC or a ladder match for Extreme Rules. We haven't had one in a long, long time. I think the last one we had was, I don't even remember the last TLC match we had, because at a TLC last year, John Cena versus Ziggler was just a regular ladder match. It wasn't a TLC match. So other than that, I don't remember what TLC match they've had in the last year in WWE. But yeah, what do you think about that match? Do you see the Shield being involved in something else at Extreme Rules?
Well, to correct that statement there, for the TLC match, the last TLC match that we had was Team Hell No versus the Shield. Remember, at that same event, it was the Shield versus Ryback and Team Hell No. However, it was a bit different though, because it wasn't for the tag team titles. There were no titles at stake. It was a pinner submission.
Exactly.
It was a pinfall or submission match, so it was quite different. If you throw the tag team titles on the line this time, and they're reaching to grab the titles, that'd be a nice addition to it. 3-on-2, 2-on-2, doesn't really matter. They had a fantastic match at TLC. My personal opinion, probably one of the better matches in WWE in 2012. Probably in my top 5. You exclude Ryback, I still think that it could be a fantastic matchup for the tag team titles on the line. I don't know if Undertaker can join that. I'm looking forward to what he does next week on Raw, if he actually wrestles or not. But I'm looking forward to it, because I don't think that he's going to be able to wrestle in such a matchup, being the age that he is, and being, that's one of the reasons why he didn't face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, because the two styles are Brock Lesnar's style is way too aggressive for Undertaker at this point in time. But you never know. Maybe he could shock us. But yeah, I think that'd be a fantastic match for Extreme Rules.
Yeah, and it depends, what they're going to do on Raw next week, whether they're going to attack Undertaker and he won't even get to compete in that match, and they could build it from there and add him to the Extreme Rules card. I would love to see Undertaker wrestle more often. A lot of people say, oh, he's done, he needs to retire, but Undertaker, he can still go at it, and we saw that at WrestleMania. He actually looked in great shape. He was able to keep up the pace with CM Punk in the ring, and it was a different style that he adjusted to in years prior, because in years prior, all it was chair shots, chair shots. This time it felt more like a wrestling match for Taker, and we haven't seen that out of Taker since WrestleMania 25 when he wrestled Shawn Michaels, so that's a long time. So Taker can still go at it, but my next match here, and this one is going to be a bit of a clusterfuck because you have Sheamus, Randy Orton, Big Show, and now I think Mark Henry's getting involved into this. So originally, I had Sheamus versus Mark Henry booked in a street fight at Extreme Rules, but then we would have to do something with Orton and Big Show, and I don't think WWE is going to keep them out of the card for Extreme Rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this and make it a fatal 4-way match, a fatal 4-way street fight at Extreme Rules. They announced on Raw that on SmackDown, Big Show and Sheamus were going to team up against, or Big Show and Mark Henry were going to team up against Sheamus and Randy Orton. So I think that's basically the setup in which all four men are probably going to, just sprawl it out on SmackDown and have a huge fight. And then that's eventually going to lead to a fatal 4-way at Extreme Rules. And as for a winner for this match, I'm gonna go with Henry, because I think Mark Henry's been on a huge momentum. I think WWE's going to keep building Mark Henry up at this point. But what do you think about this match? Do you think it's likely that we'll see it happen?
I'd rather see a fatal 4-way, quite honestly, than a singles match between Orton, Big Show, and Sheamus and Mark Henry, respectively. I think it could be a better way of utilizing all four talents, especially on a show where they need less matches in order to, rather than time constraints and whatever. But that being said, I would love a fatal 4-way match, maybe a tables match, a street fight, something along those lines. I think could be great. But Mark Henry and Sheamus have already feuded before. Orton and Big Show have no interest in that whatsoever. I have no idea why Mark Henry was thrown into this feud to begin with. I think he could have been fine with Ryback and John Cena. You could have made that a triple threat match and do Ryback and Cena at the next pay-per-view. We were talking about this last week on the show, but I think that would have been a better way to lengthen the feud rather than cut to the Ryback and Cena match quite quickly. But that being said, if they're going to go this route, might as well throw Henry into this point. Fatal 4-way match. I would go with a tables match, but I think a street fight, as you said, maybe no holds barred. I don't know. Singapore Cane match, maybe. They had a 6-man Singapore Cane match at Extreme Rules 6 years ago, and we haven't seen one since. So something along those lines, I think it'd be great involving all four guys.
Right, definitely. No one would want to see, Sheamus versus Henry or Big Show versus Henry or whatever, No one has any interest, because we've seen these feuds before between Sheamus, Henry, Big Show, Orton, Big Show. So, I think this would be the right direction to go with. Just throw in a fatal 4-way in there. But here's an interesting one now. Dolph Ziggler versus Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger for the world title in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Do you see that happening?
The triple threat match I definitely see happening. That was actually confirmed on the website just yesterday, I believe. But as far as the stipulation, it has not been announced. The dirt sheets are reporting that it's just going to be a standard triple threat match. I really hope not. I hope, because triple threats aren't extreme at all.
Exactly.
There technically are no disqualifications, but even still, there should be a stipulation. If the mid-card match is going to be a ladder match, I think this match could be a ladder match too, or either or. But even still, you said Falls Count Anywhere, correctly?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be awesome. A Falls Count Anywhere match involving all three guys. I think it'd be great. All three guys are amazing athletes. The matchups that we've seen between all three guys, Ziggler versus Swagger and Del Rio versus Swagger WrestleMania, have all been great. I think it can make for an amazing match come Extreme Rules, especially given the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation.
And there were rumors that they were possibly going to make this a submission match as well, which I think would have been interesting too, because, Ziggler, Del Rio, and Swagger all have finishers. Ziggler with the sleep hold, Del Rio with the arm lock, and Swagger with, the ankle lock or whatever he calls it nowadays. So, it would have been interesting to see a submission match thrown in there as well. But I think they'll likely make this a Falls Count Anywhere. I just hope that after Extreme Rules, and we talked about this on the show last week, I just hope after Extreme Rules, it's a new feud for Dolph Ziggler, a new opponent. I definitely don't want to see Del Rio have, countless matches with Ziggler, because what chemistry do they have? There's not much chemistry there. I don't think they could build much of a story between Ziggler and Del Rio, and the same goes with Ziggler and Swagger. They're both heels. So like I said last week, Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler should be the feud they go with next. Have Bryan lose the tag team championships at Extreme Rules, and he can move on singles competition. But the main event now, John Cena versus Ryback for the WWE Championship match. And this is interesting because here's my stipulation. I think it is going to happen. A last man standing match between John Cena and Ryback. I mean, there's nothing else they could do other than this to make Cena versus Ryback be a sellable match at Extreme Rules. I mean, if they want the buyer rates, this is it right here. Add in last man standing. You have two big powerhouses. What are you going to do with them? You can't put them in a regular match. You can't put them in an Extreme Rules match. That would suck. Last man standing is perfect for John Cena and Ryback. It'd be similar to Cena versus Batista a few years ago when they had their last man standing match. So hopefully they do this, Cena versus Ryback in a last man standing match. What do you think?
Well, they ran into this issue last year as well with Ryback versus CM Punk for the first time ever. And because it was a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, they had to rush into the Hell in a Cell stipulation. They treat it as it was nothing when it should be saved for big-time matchups. That's why I said they should have saved they should have saved Ryback versus Cena for the next pay-per-view and done Henry versus Cena versus Ryback here in a triple threat match, and done maybe a steel cage, which I think could have benefited this, and then done Cena versus Ryback in the standard singles match, because it's their first ever meeting and whatnot. Two of the biggest stars in the company right now. It should be a big-time matchup. If they raced the stipulation, I would like to see the last man standing match, but it's a match that kind of concludes a feud rather than continues it. I see your point, but if they want to continue this feud, I would like to say that at a later point, but with this being Extreme Rules, you can't really avoid it, and if they need a stipulation for this, then yes, last man standing I think would benefit both guys and benefit both their styles. But besides that, I really don't see what other way they can go with this. If they had, or actually with that being said, they could go with a draw if they want to protect Ryback rather than have Cena win via the 10 count, and they want to protect both Ryback and Cena in this match, and they don't want Cena to lose the championship. They could just have them both lose via draw, via the 10 count. So, yeah, I think that could be a good escape for continuing this feud going into Payback next month, or going into June.
That would be interesting, actually, a draw. That would be perfect. Do you think Ryback is officially a heel now? Because as we all saw yesterday, it made the headlines and it made everywhere. Ryback made a tweet in which he was referencing John Cena's ex-wife. And, Ryback said that the two things John Cena says he lacks, which is head and balls, are the two things that his ex-wife loves. So what do you think? Was this a heel tactic? Was this just Ryback trash-talking John Cena regularly? Because that's the way I see it. You don't have to be a heel to do trash-talking on Twitter. The Rock did it all the time with Cena. Does that mean The Rock should be a heel? No. So I think people should just wait to see what happens from here and tune into Raw next week to see if Ryback is confirmed a heel or still a babyface. Me personally, I think he's still a babyface, but he's just taking a new direction. He's cutting out the feed me more thing. It's more about him now. It's more about Ryback. It's not any longer about him being friendly or anything like that. Now he's going to be more serious. He's in the hunt for the WWE Championship. Everyone wants the WWE title, so I think that's what it's about. I don't think he's heel yet, but what do you think? Do you think we'll eventually see him turn heel as weeks go by heading into Extreme Rules?
Is he a full-fledged heel at the moment? Probably not. Like I was saying before, in relation to CM Punk, it's kind of like CM Punk. When he turned on the Rock at Raw 1000, he wasn't a heel immediately. He was still facing Big Show there afterwards. He was still facing heels and whatnot. But it kind of slowly transitioned over time to a full-fledged heel. That's what I think they're going to be doing with Ryback. I do still think that he's somewhat of a babyface right now. I'll say that he's a tweener for this point in time. That the attack on Cena last week was kind of the starting point. It's going to gradually, turn out in coming weeks. What they did this week with the Shield and have him just stand by, I think is kind of an indicator that they are going the direction of a heel turn. And why I say that is because with CM Punk taking time off at the moment, Brock Lesnar's not going to be around for a while too. I mean, he's around right now, but after Extreme Rules, he won't be around. There's not many other heels besides CM Punk. I mean, any other top heels that they need to feud with Cena. So if they want to continue this program, yeah, I definitely see him turning heel like a full-fledged heel down the line. But the approach that they're taking right now, doing it slowly, week by week, and slowly foreshadowing it, I think is the best tactic, as they did with CM Punk last year.
And we saw the Shield, as you mentioned earlier. We saw them attack John Cena on Raw this past week, and Ryback just walked away and didn't help him. So do you think this is a sign of things to come? Maybe Ryback is behind the Shield, or do you think, the Shield will be involved in the Extreme Rules match that they had, and eventually that'll lead to the official Ryback heel turn? And basically what I'm trying to suggest is, since Brock Lesnar's going away, Punk's going away, that's being rumored as well, do you think Ryback will be revealed as a Paul Heyman guy?
Perhaps. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I don't think Ryback should be behind the Shield per se. I think it would be fine if he was just on his own. That's what makes him badass. If he was just a singles competitor, just heel on his own. But I don't think the Shield needs a leader in general. A lot of people are rumoring Randy Orton, John Cena. I don't think they need a leader in order to get over. They're a fine entity all on their own. But yeah, pairing with Paul Heyman wouldn't be a bad idea. I would not be opposed to that whatsoever. They could do the same thing like they did with Big Show and Paul Heyman a number of years ago, about a decade ago, I believe. But yeah, Ryback needs mic skills. I mean, what the mic skills that he showed this past Monday night were excellent, probably the best promo that he's cut his entire WWE career. But he needs a mouthpiece. He's not as bad as Brock Lesnar, but like Brock Lesnar, he needs a mouthpiece in order to continue this feud with Cena. And having him pair with Paul Heyman for right now, and especially after Lesnar's gone after Extreme Rules, and CM Punk supposedly will be gone for a lengthy period of time, probably until SummerSlam. I mean, that's what the dirt sheets are saying, but I kind of have a feeling that's true, that he will be gone for a number of months. So how do you maintain a Paul Heyman position on television? Put him with Ryback and just have him feud with Cena that way.
And I personally think Ryback is great on the microphone. I don't think you would need to have him, be paired up with anyone else. He's not as bad as Brock Lesnar on the microphone. I think he would do just fine on his own. So, yeah, but we'll just have to see what happens. Definitely adding in Paul Heyman would be a major plus and benefit to Ryback, however. But one thing we didn't touch on for this card is a Divas match. You see any signs of a Diva match happening at Extreme Rules?
Probably Caitlyn versus one of the Bella twins. Probably Nikki Bella, because that's who defeated Caitlyn this past week on Raw. I assume that we're going to be seeing a rematch for the title, because with the pay-per-view being a month away, I don't expect them to start building this feud now. They'll probably give away the title match maybe next week on WWE Superstar for all we know. I don't really know. But that being said, I mean, they don't really care about the division whatsoever. And I hope they get on the card. I mean, they weren't even on the WrestleMania card, especially after the 8-person tag team match was cut. I wanted to see Caitlyn versus AJ. That was direction they were going in pre-Mania. Not so much now. The Bella Twins are fine. Their match on Raw this week was okay. But if they're going to do the first ever meeting between maybe one of the Bella Twins and Caitlyn, it's going to be happening in Extreme Rules. As far as the stipulation, probably a Lumberjill match, I would assume. But yeah, besides that, no one really knows, no one really cares. But if it was going to be confirmed, probably Caitlyn versus one of the Bella Twins for the title.
And I think right now would be the perfect time to rebuild the Divas division, because as it goes, after WrestleMania, a new year always starts in WWE. I think they should start from scratch, rebuild it. And basically, you bring in these NXT divas as well. I heard they have some pretty good divas down there. This would be the perfect opportunity, to showcase some of those new divas who are down there in the developmental system. So, hopefully we see that happen as months go by. And another thing we didn't touch on is Wade Barrett. I know you mentioned him slightly earlier, but we didn't really touch on an Intercontinental Championship match at Extreme Rules. And Miz, I heard he's going to be filming another movie soon, so I don't think Barrett versus Miz will be happening again. What Wade Barrett did say on WWE Raw, the Backstage Fallout show, that he's open to giving R-Truth a shot at the Intercontinental title. So it seems like that's the direction they're going to go with. However, I just don't see what kind of stipulation they could add to this match, because right now there is no feud. It just seems like a last-minute match thrown in there. So you got to figure this might be the pre-show match for Extreme Rules.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, at this point, as I said before, they don't care about the mid-card belts. So again, I would not be surprised if they gave this away next week on Raw, especially with Raw being in London, England next week. They should give an IC title match on the big stage and maybe have a rematch at Extreme Rules. But yeah, they could save it for Extreme Rules, start building R-Truth up a little bit. Not a feud that I necessarily want to see, but. And also tonight on the WWE main event, they're having that number one contenders match. But from what I heard, they're having the title match that very same night, so I don't think that's going to affect this long-term feud between Barrett and R-Truth. In regards to The Miz, as you just said, he's going to be in Canada, I believe, filming a new movie for the ABC Family, a Christmas movie, I believe. I don't know when he's going to be back. Probably soon, maybe not, I don't know. But he could always come back to Raw before Extreme Rules, and they put that randomly on the card, and they do that on the pre-show again. But, yeah, Barrett versus R-Truth, not a match that intrigues me, but as long as Barrett goes over in the end, that's all I care about.
Yeah, they definitely got to start building up Barrett again, especially after WrestleMania where he looked completely like shit the way they booked him in the pre-show. It was only a 4-minute match and stuff. But The Miz, what's the issue with this guy? It seems like all he does now is outside WWE stuff. He's barely relevant inside the WWE ring. So, is this a guy that's going to have a bright future with WWE, but when it comes to being in the ring, he's just going to be invisible? Do you see him being, a Chris Jericho or someone who will not really be in the main event scene for years to come, but he's always going to be in the mid-card scene, basically to put over other talents, and be something amongst that line? Because right now, I don't see The Miz ever getting back into the WWE or world title pictures since he has all this outside WWE work going on. So I definitely see him following the career path of Chris Jericho, where, Chris Jericho does his side projects with Fozzy, and stuff like that. I think The Miz will be similar. But do you ever see WWE letting go of this guy? I personally don't see him ever being let go, but I just don't think he'll ever be relevant either in WWE.
I don't see them necessarily releasing him. I could see him going the path of Chris Jericho, as you just said, maybe parting on his own, especially with him being married soon to Maurice. He was just recently engaged, so he could be taking time off for that in a brief while as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. But will he be relevant again? Maybe world champion? Maybe, but as you just said, with him doing all these other projects, and Marine 3 last summer, and now the new ABC Family movie, I mean, it's good for him that he's doing promotional work outside of WWE, and it's fine that he's like Jericho, where he comes back and he has good matches and he takes off for a brief bit. I'm fine with that. I like The Miz, so I'm cool with that. But he's done it all in WWE. This is a guy that main evented WrestleMania 2 years ago against John Cena and won. And he's been U.S. champion, IC champion, tag team champion multiple times. So a Slammy Award winner, so many other things. So what does he have left to prove in WWE? Much like Chris Jericho, he's just coming back for random feuds. I just didn't like the fact they put the IC title on him for 24 hours. It diminished him. It diminished Wade Barrett. Diminished the title. Complete waste of time. But
yeah.
Aside from that, though, I like The Miz. I like how they use him in small doses. That's cool. I like his face character. A lot of people shit on it, but I like it. But yeah, I think having him just come back every once in a while to do some feuds, like with Barrett, it's good for him, good for whoever he's working with, and just good for the WWE in general.
And he's definitely improved in the ring over the years, a lot, might I add. He really has some good matches now on Raw and pay-per-views and stuff. But yeah, guys, I think that'll do it here for the WWE Extreme Rules fantasy scenario. It was an honor having you on the show, Graham, and hopefully we do more of these in the future. But right now, I would like to give him the opportunity to plug in, any sort of other projects he does outside of this. And yeah, mic's all yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a fun time. As you just said beforehand, we do spoilers every Thursday at 5:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Central Time, and as you also said, whenever we do it, I mean, we don't really usually have a set date and time because our schedules are crazy and whatever. But even still, we do that over at blogtalkradio.com/PWP Radio. You can follow me on Twitter and Tout at @team_us_GSM. I have my own Facebook page at Graham GSM Matthews. As you noted before as well, I write for Bleacher Report at Graham GSM Matthews. I have my own YouTube channel at Teddy DiBiase Priceless 9. And my own website for all the WWE TNA rumors, recaps, and more at nextEraWrestling.weebly.com. So thanks for having me on, Lucas. It's been a fun time, and hopefully join you in the future and once again.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I look forward to the next show of Spoilers Podcast. Is that going to be tomorrow night?
I believe so. Tomorrow night will be at the regular time, I believe, as I just talked with Ben just a brief while ago. Tomorrow night, 5:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Central Time.
Sounds good. I'll definitely be there. And you can follow me on Twitter at Lucas the Menace. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, youtube.com/Lucas the Menace. And check out my articles on CamelClutchBlog.com. I actually wrote a new blog today, why Ryback is a force to be reckoned with. Check that out, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.